strong men read, even when they're tired. Not because they feel motivated, not because they have extra time, but because they understand something quiet and important. A man who stops learning slowly starts repeating excuses. Most men don't quit reading loudly. They drift away from it. They say they'll read later, when work slows down, when life gets easier, when they feel less exhausted. But later rarely comes. Reading doesn't compete with your strength. It sharpens it. A strong man doesn't read to sound smart. He reads to stay oriented. Because when pressure builds, when responsibility piles up, when decisions carry weight for a family, a business, or a legacy, instinct alone is not enough. Reading is how a man borrows clarity from those who have already walked ahead. It's how he avoids paying full price for every mistake himself. And notice this: strong men don't read in perfect conditions. They read when the house is quiet, when the body is tired, when no one is watching. That's discipline. Not loud, not impressive, just consistent. A man who reads regularly is quietly telling himself, "I don't have time for excuses. I make time for alignment." This video is not about how many books you finish. It's about who you become when you refuse to skip thinking. Because excuses grow in silence, and so does strength. Many men treat reading like a hobby, something optional, something to enjoy only when life feels calm. Strong men don't. They treat reading the way they treat training, sleep, or keeping their word, as maintenance. A hobby depends on mood. Discipline does not. When a man reads only when he feels inspired, he is not building capacity. He is following comfort. Reading becomes discipline when it shows up on tired days, on distracted days, on days when the mind would rather scroll, numb out, or shut down. This is why reading matters more as a man gets older, because life does not simplify with age. It compounds. Responsibilities stack. Consequences grow heavier. Decisions stop being about you alone. A disciplined man understands this. If he doesn't intentionally shape his thinking, pressure will shape it for him. Our reading is how he slows his reactions, how he widens his perspective, how he keeps himself from shrinking under stress. He doesn't read fast. He reads deliberately, sometimes only a few pages, sometimes the same paragraph twice. But he shows up, not to escape reality, but to engage it with more clarity. This is why strong men don't skip reading. They skip excuses. They don't wait for motivation. They don't negotiate with fatigue. They simply sit down and keep their mind in training. When a man stops reading, nothing collapses immediately. That's why it's dangerous. There is no alarm, no obvious failure, just a slow narrowing of thought. He begins reacting instead of choosing, repeating opinions instead of forming them, borrowing emotions from headlines, feeds, and noise. His inner frame weakens quietly. Without regular reading, a man's thinking becomes crowded, but not deep, busy, but not grounded. He consumes more information, yet understands less. He feels more pressure, yet has fewer words for it. This is how confusion grows. A man who doesn't read regularly starts outsourcing his judgment to trends, to louder voices, to whatever emotion shows up first. Over time, he becomes easier to provoke, easier to rush, easier to exhaust. And not because he is weak, but because his inner structure is no longer being reinforced. Reading is not about knowledge accumulation. It is about frame maintenance. It keeps a man oriented when life pulls in multiple directions. It reminds him how other men thought through hardship, failure, responsibility, and restraint. When reading disappears, reflection disappears with it. And without reflection, discipline becomes brittle. A man may still look busy, he may still appear productive, but inside, he feels scattered. Strong men sense this early, that subtle loss of center, and that is why they return to books, not for escape, but for recalibration. Reading does not make a man louder, it makes him steadier. Quiet authority is built this way. A man who reads consistently does not rush to speak. He listens longer. He chooses words more carefully, not because he is unsure, but because he is grounded. Over time, something subtle changes. He stops reacting to every challenge as a threat. He stops proving himself in unnecessary arguments. He becomes comfortable not having the last word. That is authority. People feel it before they can explain it. In meetings, at home, in moments of pressure. A man who reads carries more context, more patience, more restraint. He has seen patterns repeat across decades, cultures, and lives. He knows most problems are not new, and most panic is optional. Reading teaches him this quietly. It stretches his time horizon, and it reminds him that discipline compounds slowly, but reliably. He doesn't dominate conversations. He stabilizes them. This is why strong men keep reading even when no one notices. Because authority that needs attention is fragile. Authority built in silence lasts. A man who reads regularly does not need to announce his strength. It shows in how he decides, how he waits, how he carries responsibility without noise. Books do not give him power over others. They give him command over himself. And that kind of authority cannot be faked. Strong men don't read a lot. They read consistently. This is where most men misunderstand the habit. They think reading requires long, perfect blocks of time. An hour, silence, comfort. So they wait. A disciplined man does the opposite. He reads in small, repeatable windows. 10 minutes, 5 pages, a few paragraphs before sleep. He doesn't ask, "Do I feel like reading?" He asks, "Where does reading already fit?" After dinner, when the house settles. In the morning, before the phone wakes up his mind. In the quiet space between obligations. Reading becomes a fixed anchor, not an event. He also reads with intention. Not 10 books at once, not endless highlights, not chasing productivity tricks. He reads slowly. Sometimes the same book for weeks because the goal is not speed. The goal is integration. A disciplined man reads to sharpen judgment, to strengthen restraint, to improve how he carries pressure. That's why he doesn't quit when progress feels invisible. Because reading works the same way discipline always does. Quietly, internally, over time. He understands this truth. If he can scroll for 10 minutes, he can read for 10 minutes. The difference is not time. It is priority. Strong men don't wait for reading to feel easy. They make it non-negotiable. Not heroic, not impressive, just daily. Strong men don't skip reading. They skip excuses. They don't wait for the perfect mood. They don't wait for more time. They don't negotiate with tiredness. They understand something simple. If the mind is not trained, it will default to comfort. Reading is not about becoming impressive, it's about staying aligned. Aligned with your values, aligned with your responsibilities, aligned with the man you are trying to remain as pressure increases. A few pages a day is not a small act. It is a quiet vote for clarity over chaos, for intention over drift. No one applauds a man for reading at night. No one sees the pages turned when the house is asleep. And that's the point. Quiet discipline is built where there is no audience. A man who reads consistently is not chasing motivation. He is protecting his inner structure, because excuses don't disappear on their own. They grow when thinking stops. Strong men understand this early, so they keep a book nearby. They return to it when life feels heavy. They let it slow them down before the world speeds them up again. Not every page will change your life, but the habit will. Strong men don't skip reading. They skip the stories that keep them small. And tomorrow, they show up again.